Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 6, entitled Consumed. You know, I didn't realize that so many people looked forward to watching my reviews of these episodes because I haven't reviewed the last 2 episodes or so, and I got a couple comments from people saying, hey, what happened to your Walking Dead review? So that was pretty flattering. I felt good seeing that people cared enough. So I decided to come back for this. Before I get into this episode, though, I want to briefly mention the Beth episode. I like that episode. I did. She was gone for so long that it was important to see what happened to her, and to set up everything with the hospital clearly by now was very vital to see where the rest of this season is going. Some of my friends told me that they thought it was like the weakest episode of the series, which is pretty harsh. But then last week's episode was even better with Abraham and Glenn and that group. And obviously finding out that Eugene was lying wasn't a surprise. But I was surprised that we found out when we did. And Abraham beating the holy fucking shit out of him was priceless. But getting into this week's episode, I love that it started off with Carol. And we saw what happened to her after Rick made her leave the group. And here's something that I didn't even think about how much I wanted to see until you realize throughout this whole episode how many times they flash back to Carol moments and how many things that she's done off camera, and it was pretty cool to see them go back and show all that. Like here, even when she's in her car and she's kind of sitting there and being emotional, I swear you don't have 60 seconds to be alone, to be by yourself, to have some peace and quiet without a walker coming up, and in this case he's banging on the window. It looks like his arm was broken, but he was still trying to like break through the window. Then she drives and finds this abandoned place and she stays there for a while. Then she sees the smoke from the prison, and she even drove there and saw that basically the prison was gone. And that's when I assume she went out and probably looked for whoever she could that survived. So, that was very cool. And then I was reminded in the opening recap that she was about to leave the group, it looks like, before Daryl found her, and then they saw the car and went after. So here we see Daryl and Carol, and they're following the car. It seems like they lose them or their car runs out of gas. And again, another walker comes up to the fucking car. She decides to go to what we find out is a shelter. And she tells the story about how it's a shelter that her and Sophia went to for a night or two when her husband beat her. And she just felt so weak and helpless at that point in her life. And it's a reminder about where her character was in Season 1, where she started off. How she was one of the weakest characters on the show. And to see her progression now, her growth, she's one of the strongest characters, one of the most badass characters in a lot of ways. It's amazing to see that growth in her character. And watching her and Daryl together, and they're having sort of a nice moment. And then there's even a quick second where they're laying in bed side by side. And I'm just thinking in my head, alright, something's going to happen. They're either going to kiss, they might even have sex. And it's one of those things where I know a lot of people, a lot of fans of the show, has been shipping these two characters. I know that's a term. They've been basically romanticizing them and saying how either they've already hooked up or they're going to hook up. Now, I don't know. I still don't know what exactly their relationship is. I'm under the impression that they're just really close. They're friends. I don't think they've hooked up. I'm not even sure if Daryl looks at her like that. Maybe he sees her more as an older sister or something. I don't know. If they had hooked up, I wouldn't have been against it. But I'm surprised a little bit that they didn't do it. And I even like the moment when Carol said to Daryl, look, you haven't asked about what happened to the 2 little girls. And Daryl said, I'm pretty sure what happened, and I just don't want to hear it. And she says, no, it was worse than that. Now, she never told him, but I like the fact that that explains why really none of the group has asked about the 2 little girls. I bet they all assume that they just didn't make it. And the fact that Carol almost feels compelled, she wants to tell somebody what exactly happened, because what she had to do was pretty fucked up. So then we see Noah, who was following them, at least through the garage, and he steals their weapons. He steals Daryl's crossbow, which, my God, you do not steal Daryl's crossbow. Surprisingly, at first, he was kind of okay with it. He at least said, look, it's a kid, whatever. And he just sort of said, we'll find more weapons. And then even Carol went to go almost shoot him, and he stopped her from shooting him, which I was a little impressed with. And then we see a quick moment of Carol burning the bodies. It's very brief, but I loved it. I love seeing her in that state, because when all that happened last season, we found out everything after the fact. So we didn't know her reason for doing it exactly. We didn't know if it was a malicious thing or if she had gone off the deep end. But seeing here, it does seem like she knew what she was doing. She was calculated. Sure, we've gathered all that, but seeing it, I thought was a big plus. Now that brings me to the stunt of the episode. That's what I'm calling it. Hell, it might be the biggest stunt that we've seen on this show so far. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this was the biggest sort of big thing that the show has done, where Daryl and Carol were on this van, inside the van, and these walkers started to come through, and the van was already hanging off the bridge, like a little less than halfway hanging off. And when they were cornered, they realized there's only one way to go. So they put the seatbelts on and they crashed down. And that was awesome. It was awesome to see something like that. And the fact that they survived it, or even just the brief moment of them sitting there and saying, wow, we made it, everything's okay. And then walkers just start falling from the sky and landing on the windshield, and that was intense, but awesome at the same time. And then Daryl's newfound weapon is a machete. When I saw him pick up this machete, I said, holy fuck, Daryl has a machete. This is going to be badass. And what do you know? We see Noah, and he's running away from walkers, and Daryl just gives him a tackle into these bookshelves, and the shelves fall onto Noah, and then there's a walker coming through the door, and Daryl was just gonna say, fuck this kid, you know what, like, I let you live before, but you almost got us killed, so I'm not gonna do it twice. And this is where I think we saw a brief glimpse of probably how Daryl was before this, or at least, like, if he was with Merle at this point, they totally would have let him die. And there's a part of him that still wanted to let him die, and Carol, ironically enough, was the one who said, we can't do this. She's calling his name. At the last second, he comes back and shoots the walker. I honestly thought that Noah was about to die, but he didn't. And then we see that the people in the hospital are circling around, and I'm pretty sure Carol didn't do this on purpose, but she just ran outside and got hit by the car. Fuck! I mean, she got hit hard. It wasn't just like she grazed the side of it. No, she hit it and flew up into the windshield, and she was hurt. And Noah had to hold Daryl back and say, look, they can take her, they can take care of her, they can help her with medicine, and let them take her. And he did, so that explains at least why Carol was taken, because originally I didn't know if she did get hurt by them or if this was a plan. It seems like it's a little bit of both. And so I'm assuming now we know that Daryl was bringing back Noah to the group, and now the group is going to go to the hospital to raise some hell. This is pretty awesome. We only have 2 episodes left, and I swear I cannot wait. It's crazy to see where the season started with Terminus, and now we're already with a new group of bad guys that we're going to go after at this hospital. I cannot wait. The next 2 episodes are going to be pretty epic. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you saw this episode. What did you think of it? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!